I'd like to tell you all about a movie that I saw the other day that blew my mind. And it's a movie you've probably never heard of. I had never heard of it. I don't know how I heard about it. Somehow I heard about it. It's and I decided to give it a watch because it's available on streaming um, now. And I don't know why I don't know why I really gave it a watch in the first place because when I saw the preview, I wasn't really that impressed with what I saw. It looked like a kind of a raunchy comedy. I thought it might be it was a raunchy comedy about uh, two people who are deciding to make their own pornography. So I thought it might be kind of like Boogie Nights kind of. I didn't expect it to be Boogie Nights, and it isn't Boogie Nights, but it's its own thing. Um, I don't really know why I gave it a shot. I thought there was a chance it could be diverting, or it might just be terrible and annoying and you know all that. But for some reason, I gave it a shot. Now the title of the movie is Lovebug, and that's all one word, Lovebug. And I will link to the preview here, even though, as you'll see, the preview is going to give you a very different impression of the movie than what the movie is actually like. Um, but it's going to be hard to find. You type in Lovebug movie, you're going to get the 1968 Disney movie about the car. That's the Love Bug, where it's two separate words, love and bug are two separate words. This is just one word, Love Bug. I don't know why. I don't know whence the title exactly. Um, but anyway, so this movie blew my mind because it did not go in the direction that I was expecting it to. You start out. There's a scene with the two main characters are Gracie and Douglas. Douglas is this nice young kind of not very bright guy, and he's in a car with his Asian girlfriend who's angry with him for some reason. She's just sort of having this fit. She's just kind of being obnoxious and bratty. She's not very likable, but he doesn't really comprehend what's going on. He's very much an innocent in his way, although not totally innocent, but as we'll see. But I find that depictions of innocence, sort of like the equivalent of what Billy Budd is in Herman Melville's story, or interestingly enough, I think I've talked about this before, what Gomer Pyle is. If you watch the old TV show Gomer Pyle, it's a goofy show, but when you give it some reflection, you see that Gomer is like a sort of a depiction of man before sin. He's a depiction of innocence. He's really goofy and again not very bright, but he just doesn't seem to have a bone in his body that would want to do harm to anybody, and that would ever dream of doing anything wrong. This guy Douglas, this young man, he's not totally innocent, but he has a definite innocence about him. So he gets yelled at. His girlfriend says, "You're not manly enough. I want to break up with you." He doesn't really know what's going on, but before he knows it, she's kicked him out of the car, and he's there on the side of the road or in some parking lot, and he's just sort of, wow, what was that? He's not sure what just happened, why it happened. we see a scene with the other main character, Gracie. Gracie is a young woman in her 20s, um, and her boss comes in and says, "I've caught you taking money out of the till, and you're fired." And she tries to put up a fight. She tries to proclaim that proclaim her innocence, and tries to weasel out of it, but but to no avail. And her boss tells her, if you're so hard up for money, why don't you just whore yourself out? He just says that to her, which is kind of a harsh thing to say, but the thing is, it gives her an idea. Now, Gracie is in some ways the very opposite, not the very very opposite of Douglas, but she's definitely far from being innocent. Um, so she walks out of the convenience store where she was working until again her boss found out that she was robbing the till at regular intervals. So now she's fired, and she comes out and gets in her car, and then she sees Douglas standing there. He's taking his shirt off, and Douglas is a good-looking young guy, and she's sort of captivated by him, and calls him over, and sort of strikes up a conversation with him, and then eventually, takes him home to her house, and they have sex, and Douglas is just kind of like he's along for the ride, and it's like he's surprised that this is happening, but just like what happened with his girlfriend dumping him, all of a sudden he just rolls with the punches. He lets things happen, and now it's like this. Oh, there's this hot blonde girl who seems to like me, seems to want me, and so like I said, he's not totally innocent. He obviously has a carnal side. And then, while they're lying in her bed together, Gracie begins to tell Douglas she has this idea, and her idea is to make pornography, and basically to use him as a cam boy, I guess. Although the movie is set in 1988, so this is before the internet. I should have made that clear. But she proposes, just to make some videos of him, naked and doing stuff to himself, and he shrugs and goes along with it. And they'll because he likes her, and she seems to know what she's talking about, and he seems to think that she has his best interests at heart. He's heartbreakingly naive, really. This guy Douglas. And then there's some spoilers here, but not. I mean, they're not really spoilers. I'll just tell you where the plot goes, the dark place that it takes you, because up until this point, we kind of still think that this is like an innocent, or not an innocent movie. It's definitely raunchy. It's definitely sexual, but we sort of just think it's gonna end on them having this kind of hapless relationship where they try to make homemade pornography, and but eventually they learn to love each other, or she learns to have greater respect for him and treat him with greater respect, and he learns to stand up for himself, and we kind of think that's the direction it's going to go. They seem, in spite of everything that's happened so far, in spite of the danger signs, we're sort of tricked or lured into thinking this is going to be ultimately just a sweet romantic comedy. But it goes in a very dark direction. Um, because eventually Gracie has this idea of pimping Douglas out. Of course, she's given him this name Dougie, uh, and that's his I guess porn name, Dougie Boy or Dougie, something like that. So she's set up some things where she'll take him over to some guy's house, and they'll he'll let this guy do what he wants to him, and then they'll collect the funds, and they're making, the cash is rolling in with their little enterprise. But Dougie's really not, he's still rolling with it, but he's not comfortable at all with this, and it becomes more and more clear that she doesn't really care about him. She's exploiting him, and taking advantage of the fact that he's naive and kind of stupid. But gradually, as things develop, he comes to resent what she's doing with him. But even though he doesn't yet gain the presence of mind to resist, to say no. He thinks, he wants her to tell him that she loves him, and if she says she loves him and she means it, then this can't all be bad. This must be all for the good. But slowly along the way, he learns the truth, and then things go in a spectacularly awful direction, and I won't give away the ending, except to say, innocence is shattered, and eventually Douglas does learn to stand up for himself, but at a great cost. And so it's all very absorbing. It's all, it's basically just these two characters. They're the ones. It's the actor who plays Douglas and the actor who plays Douglas and the actress who plays Gracie are the ones who carry the movie. There's a little bit of the Douglas's girlfriend. She shows up later and calls him Dougie, and he says, "Please don't call me that." So she knows that he's been doing these raunchy videos, and has this, and kind of has this reputation now. But he's cognizant enough to know that there's something demeaning about being called Dougie. And then we also meet this really the one of the guys that she pimps him out to, who's really this sicko, who we don't know what he's capable of, and it's becomes a very scary scene. I know some of you are listening to this and saying, "Okay, pass. Not my kind of movie. I'll pass." And I understand that, but this, if this is something that you think you could watch, then I think it's surprisingly good. And what I really appreciated about it is that there aren't that many movies that show young men being exploited. It's a reality that it's a unfortunately a ubiquitous reality that innocence is exploited. Innocence is I mean, we've got grooming gangs. We got uh, you know stories like Epstein, stories like Pizzagate. You know, this is this is a part of the reality that's out there. You know, these stories run really deep. In this case, you know, it's not a deep, powerful cabal. It's just one young woman who's actually a lot more a lot more evil than she appears to be, who is able to exploit this young man who's younger than she is, and then we soon find out that he's even younger than we thought he was. But I appreciate the fact that this movie, exposes the fact that young men, boys, can be exploited and are exploited, and it's as much of a tragedy when it happens to them as it is when it happens to girls. I don't think it should be a contest, mind you. I'm not saying that. I think it's bad when I think it's a terrible thing. It's an abomination, whether it's boys or girls who are victims. But boys are victims too, and I appreciate how this movie. I appreciated how this movie, showed that truth without being heavy-handed about it. And it's not, again, it's a movie that sneaks up on you. You don't expect it to go the direction that it does, although I guess you will if you've watched all of my commentary here. Then you'll know what to expect. But it still is kind of shocking that it goes in the direction that it does, and we see it's basically when somebody who's good, who's well intentioned but naive, and easily led, meets up with somebody who's devious and scheming and exploitative. And in this case, it's the woman who's devious and exploitative, and it's a young man who gets exploited, and it's powerful. So look it up, Lovebug. It's from 2025. You have to look. You have to type in Lovebug 2025. Again, I will link below to a preview to the film, because it's a low budget movie. It's not a movie that you're likely ever to have heard of, and again, I'm glad that I found it, and it would be my pleasure to share it with y'all as well. So look it up for yourself and watch it and tell me what you think if you want to.